Hello, my friends, and welcome to Spirit Chat. And wait till you hear my guest. Her name is Karen Docherty, is from Scotland. And I'm so excited because it reminds me of home because that's where my family is from. So I'm really excited. Wait till you hear her beautiful accent. Hopefully you could understand her. So we already had the chat before we began. And so Karen is a medium, quite well known. You're well renowned, I would have to say, right, Karen? Because you've done. I read on your website that you've gone across to the U.S., right across to Australia. If you want to tell a
Yeah,
little bit about your travels.
yeah, sure. Well, it's lovely to be here on the podcast and doing some
Yes.
spirit chat with you. So yeah, I mean, I've over the years managed to build up, a kind of great work ethic from my perspective, but also as you know, and you and I have said this, that spirit know where you've to be and where you've to go, and it's all kind of directed from there rather than here. So I've been really lucky in being asked to do events and readings and such like in all areas, really internationally. So I'm very lucky.
And I'm very grateful to your assistant, Nina, who reached out to me. And as soon as I went to your website and I read that you were from Scotland, I'm like, oh, yeah, for sure, we're in. Right?
It's a funny thing because I really am very blessed that so many people love Scotland and they kind of, I don't know if it's a Celtic
Energy.
connection or it's just it's just an energy about it. So
Yeah.
I love being from Scotland, but likewise I love speaking to people from different areas and
And I've
different
I've
places.
been to Ireland, I've been to Scotland, I've been to England, but whenever my feet land on the ground of Scotland, that's where I breathe in the air and go, I'm home. And
Isn't it funny? It's just
it
something in
is.
you, isn't it? It's something
Absolutely. And that's
within.
how you know if you obviously you probably believe in past lives. And I'm just like, yeah, I've spent many lifetimes here for sure. No doubt.
hmm
Right.
Yeah, something you feel within the depths of your soul, really.
Mm-hmm. So question for you, and that is for my listeners, is just because they're very intrigued when it comes to mediumship, they like to know things about us before we started entering this spirit realm. And so the question is, what was your life like before you became a professional medium?
Well, the best way that I can say it is just quite a normal, everyday thing. I was, through school, then done the normal things as you do, teenage years and such like. And then as my life moved forward, I left school, got a job, done everything that everyone else does. But all along and all throughout my childhood, I was always aware that I could feel spirit people. I was aware that there was a different world rather than the physical one. But I didn't actually put that together in my mind as something that not everyone else could see or feel. I just kind of felt like, well, that's just part of me. So for me, that felt normal too.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until later in life that the communication from spirit seemed to really pick up. And it got to a level where I was having to really question what is this, because it was almost dominating my thought process. So I would go to bed at night, close my eyes, and I could hear lots of people talking and faces in front of me and things like that. And
Oh,
it just
wow.
got to that point where I felt pushed forward to go and investigate it more. But before that, really, I loved mediumship. I followed a medium called Doris Stokes when I was younger. She was an English medium, just like everyone's grandmother, really, just used to
Mm-hmm.
sit and communicate with spirit. I just loved mediumship, but I did think that everyone did. So I didn't really see it as being
Mm-hmm.
different to anyone else.
Do you have anyone else in your family? Any past ancestors that did the same kind of work?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, my paternal grandmother, my dad's mum, she used to always kind of understand me. So when I used to go to her house and say, "Oh, Gran, there was a lady standing, in the kitchen earlier," instead of her saying, what are you talking about? There's no lady in there, or, being confused, she would always say, oh, don't you worry, Karen, you always bring those people in with you. It's fine, nothing to worry about. And then later in life, I actually learned also that she was mediumistic herself, and her sister was a
Oh,
trance medium
yes.
too. So it comes from that side of the family, my dad's side of the family. And usually, well, always within mediumship, there is usually a connection going back through generations.
Mm-hmm. Mine's more on the maternal side. I had a great aunt in Scotland who apparently was a famous tea leaf reader.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's how far back that one goes.
Yeah.
So did you notice that one have you noticed that you have one clair stronger than the others? Like, do you see more? Do you hear more? Which one would you say would be your strongest?
My strongest one has always been clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So everything that I get from spirit initially is a feeling. Now, I must say that every medium is clairsentient. We all
Yes.
feel the spirit world first and foremost.
Hmm.
Then the visions come, the clairaudience, the clairvoyance. So as a medium, I work with them all, as every medium usually does. But you're right, there's usually one stronger ability than the others. And for me, it was definitely that feeling first and foremost.
Mm.
And then the clairvoyance was there, the clairaudience, the claircognizance, all of those take part. But also, again, as a medium, I know that people in the spirit world communicate differently. So I might have a gentleman that comes through that communicates more through my feeling or my clairvoyance, which is seeing. But I might have a lady that comes in that doesn't communicate that way through vision. And so she will communicate through clairaudience. So it really just depends on how that person in spirit can communicate in that time frame that we've got.
And when you're getting ready to connect with spirit with the loved ones, is you have a certain intention? Is there a certain prayer? Is there what do you do?
It's more about, I feel, getting into that routine of your own work. So, and that changes, I think. I don't know how you feel about
Hmm.
that, Helen, but if you think back to the earlier days that you started, I would probably say that your routine changed as you developed, right? So in the early days, it would be, oh, sitting doing your prayer or saying, please, this is what I want to do, and setting that intention. Then kind of as you get used to working with your guides and your team and everything else, it's more of a just okay, I'm ready to work now. Let's just take a moment, take a few deep breaths, and then
Yeah.
and then begin. So I think it changes for
You're
different
right.
things.
You are so right. Because I remember when I first started, I was like, okay, I need a half an hour.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
I
yes.
need a half an hour and I need to do my visualization. And then I need to do my breath work. And then I got to do my little ting shaws and all that to raise the frequency. And now it's just like, okay, sit down. All
Getting
right.
on.
And it's like,
And
okay, we're ready to
the thing
roll.
is,
Right?
it's lovely as well that you do that, because really it does teach you how to still yourself, how to be in the spiritual power of what you need and be
Yeah.
in your own power. So I think it's an important part of your development to do that, but we shouldn't get too caught up in doing it too much, because
Too much.
then I think
Yes.
what you do is because then you tell yourself you're not ready. If someone's like, oh, I've not had my 30 minutes to do all of this, then they
Yeah.
feel they
Yeah.
put pressure on themselves. So it's more about an awareness of knowing your own power and getting into that power.
Hmm.
And funny that I look back and think, when I first started doing readings, I couldn't sit down and do them. I would say I just have to stand,
Yeah.
and I would sit, and for me it just felt like my energy was up if I was standing up. Of course, that only lasted a little while, and then it was like, of course you can sit down, you can
Yeah.
still raise your vibration and raise your energy that way.
I was like that for we do intimate group readings. So I used to be that person that would just like walk, pace back and forth, right? And then it got to the point,
Mhm.
okay, no, now I can sit. And so now, but I do find that my intentions are completely different when I am about to do an event. I just because
Yeah.
we know we're walking into a room full of dead people.
Mhm.
They're all lining up and waiting. So I find that
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more, how should I say, like I pace back and forth. I can feel the energy and I'm working myself up to that. And to the
Yeah.
point where I even get the audience up to dance before to help raise the vibration in the room. So I find I do that for myself as well. How is
Yeah.
that for you for when it comes to events or group readings?
Yeah, I think events and group readings are slightly different in that you do want a high level of energy in the room. You
Yes.
don't want to walk into a room where everything's very subdued. And I think for me, when I first started, I did a lot of work within the spiritual churches. We have a lot of spiritualist
Oh,
churches in the
yes,
UK.
yes.
So I used to, that's where I really started out doing my
Mm,
group readings, if you like, and platform demonstration. And for me, it didn't work as well as I would like it to. The communication was all fine, that was all there. But what I felt was I wanted to, like you, get everyone to stand up and
yeah,
shake, or, because for me it was very quiet. And I'm like, these people that are wanting to communicate are all buzzing
yeah.
with excitement to come and talk. So we should be excited. So that taught me a lot in the early days as well. So now for my events, which I do often, it is that high energy, it is
Mhm.
that, going into that knowing like this is going to be great, raising the vibration of it. Really, I think matters a lot with the events.
Are you still doing churches?
No, I've not done churches. I've not done churches for a long, long time.
Yeah,
And you know this, it's not that I wouldn't, because if a church came and asked me to work there, I would,
yeah,
because I will go where spirit take me and where I'm meant to serve.
exactly.
So it's not an issue. But it's just that it's almost like spirit developed that forward where I was able to go out and do my own events. And I felt at home. I felt like it was more me. I felt there wasn't
Mhm.
the worry about because in centers or churches there's a certain procedure they want you to do. They want you to work this way and this way and this way, whereas I just felt I need to be free within this mediumship of mine.
I
I
was
just want to,
exactly the
yeah.
same way. When I was learning evidential mediumship, it was the same thing. They had like this little platform, and because I move around so much, I went to step down, and I was told, nope, you cannot do that. You need to stay right up on the platform. And I think the reason for that is because maybe they were afraid that we would tap in more psychically if we got closer to who the sitter was. I'm not quite
Hmm.
sure, but like you, I felt like I
Yeah.
was in a box. I'm like, no, no. And I dropped the F bomb. And I know you can't drop the F bomb when you're in church. And I'm like,
The thing is, you've got to be unique with what you do, is what I feel. And either people will like that, or they won't, or they might not. It doesn't, you can only be the servant to spirit that you can be. And I don't know that it's right to say that everyone has to do it the same. It's not something that's
mhm,
ever sat well with me. There's always respect, there's always your work, you're always going to have that level of respect for spirit if you're a true medium anyway. So you're never going to do anything that's going to offend someone or be harsh with someone. You're going to work within your power. But I think that you're right about the psychic link. It's almost like for that fear to be there of, oh, you might go near the person and then it's psychic. For
mhm,
me, that's telling the medium they don't really know what they're doing then with
mhm,
their
mhm.
their power, because a medium knows if they're going psychic. A medium, I would know instantly if I was working psychically with
Yeah,
someone. And it wouldn't matter if they were right in front of me, or whether they were at the back of a room. You can work psychically with people online all over the world. So a medium should know whether they're going
yeah.
psychic or they're working with the power of spirit.
Have you ever worked with a medium like linking side by side, like working at the same event side by side? How do you
Yeah.
like that one?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the first time I done it was with a medium from the UK called Tony Stockwell, and I
He
had
was one
started.
of my teachers.
Right, so he was my
He's the
first.
one that taught me. He taught me linking.
Right, well, he
That
was the
is so
first.
cool.
That's strange, isn't it? He was my first, one of my first teachers as well,
Okay, this
and
is awesome. Okay, just so my
so
listener knows, Karen and I were just finding this out right now that we've been taught by the
yeah,
same teacher.
absolutely,
That is so
absolutely.
awesome.
So I went to, what happened with Tony was I had watched him on TV like everyone else.
Yeah,
He's an
yeah,
amazing, and then I started to sit in development circle, in a home circle, and I was like, I really want to go to a course. I really want to go out with that. So I seen his advertised down in London, which was a fair distance from me. So I thought I'm going to book that. So I went and I done it, and I was really in awe of him. When I met him, I
mhm.
thought he's
He's
lovely, he's a
beautiful,
lovely, lovely man,
beautiful.
and I love his mediumship.
Yeah.
So anyway, we met that first time, and then 6 months later, when I went back down for another course with him, he said, "You're coming in the advanced group," and I said, "Oh, no, 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 you've made a mistake. I was only here 6 months ago, and I'm just brand new." And he was like, "You're just going to come in the advanced group." So I went and done that, and I worked. And he said, "You just have to go and work. Like, you've already kind of advanced yourself. It's fine." And then he asked me to do his Scottish theatre tour dates with him. So I worked with him on stage. So this was
No.
when, yeah, so this was when the first time he said, right, we're going to just do a double link sort of thing. And it was funny because Tony is funny anyway.
Yes.
And it went great. And I really, really enjoyed it. And actually, when you do that double link with another medium, what is fascinating about it is you will both bring out different things. So my mediumship's going to find different than yours or
Yeah.
his, but it's all right. It's evidential. It's amazing
So
the way it works.
I'll quickly share my experience. So I went to see him in Denver because we did a week training with him. A lot of it had to do with trans as well. And so then he decided it was like probably near the end of the week, and there must have been about maybe 30, 35 people in the group. And this is when he was starting to introduce the linking. And everyone was sitting around, and I just put my hand up. I said, is there like, this is probably maybe 3/4 of the way through the session. And I said, is there any way that you can demonstrate this for us? He goes, sure, absolutely. Get your butt up here. And I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't mean for that to happen. So he brought me up, and we started linking exactly how you said. It's like you're still feeding in the same field, but because we received differently, it was the same message, but not. And so
Yeah.
all of a sudden I was on a roll. I was like, boom, 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 boom. It was like hit, 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 hit. And he's standing behind me. And all of a sudden he was rolling his eyes, and he was just like doing one of these, like, oh, you go, girl, you go. And then it was just right afterwards. It was kind of like everyone was like, after that, you know how when you're learning from the students from each other, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden everybody went like, okay, I want to sit with you, Helen. I want to sit with what? Just because I demonstrated with Tony.
Yeah.
But what an amazing experience, but also to be up there with him. So I'm just going to say, I envy you that you've actually gone up there on stage and did it, for
You know this, it's the funniest thing because even though he'd asked me to do it, and I was really like honored that he'd asked me to do it. And it was a great opportunity. Like
mhm.
I could never thank Tony enough for giving me that opportunity in theatres because it's bigger audiences and things. But I was a bag of nerves. And it was like you going back to school, right? So you know that you can do work with your mediumship. I knew that I was doing readings nearly every day. It was all fine. The minute you're in front of your first teacher, it's like you go back to being this, oh no, I don't know. And we had a laugh about it, and it all went fine. The demonstration went absolutely fine, and it was a great experience. And it's one that I will never forget because it was early on in my development, I feel, or
Yeah.
early on in my mediumship. And I just loved that he gave me that opportunity. Really,
Well,
he's amazing.
maybe we should show Tony Stockwell his amazing teachings and bring you and I together and doing it, linking it.
Absolutely.
I think that would
Yeah.
be cool. And then take a recording of it. Go, here you go, Tony. This here we are a product of you.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Andy Bing?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
Andy. I mean, I haven't worked with Andy, but I've watched him work.
yeah,
But I know who he is.
he was
Yeah.
one of my very first teachers here. He came here to Canada, and he ended up teaching for, again, another 5 days up further north from where I live. And he was one of the first people to say to me, and this is when I was just really coming out. And he's the first person to say to me, he goes, oh, you're going to be doing events. You're going to be doing group readings. I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. He goes, oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then he ended up marrying, when I was teaching, he ended up marrying one of my students.
Oh,
I
amazing.
thought,
That's
what
amazing.
a frigging small world. And so, yeah, so
Absolutely.
he moved from the UK to here, just here in Ontario. And
I,
I was actually just listening to one of his recordings that he shares on his newsletter about sitting in the power. Whoa.
Amazing. That's what I find his the way that he talks and the work that he does. I just you kind of get, the ones you get mesmerized with.
Yeah.
And the ones that are very genuine about the work. And Andy is one of them. And I think because I went down to Stansted College a lot, the
You
Arthur
did go
Findlay
there?
College.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Arthur Findlay College, I went there after I had done that course with Tony way back. And then what happened was somehow, I don't know how or when this happened, because I was never involved in the churches when I was younger, but I knew about Gordon Higginson. I don't know if you know Gordon Higginson. He was a world famous English medium, and he was the principal at the Arthur Findlay College for
Okay.
years
Okay.
and all
Yeah.
of this. So he was outstanding. He was a medium from the age of 3. He was demonstrating at the age of 12 to large
Wow.
audiences. He was outstanding. So I knew about him. I don't know how I knew about him, but I did. But then what happened was I started to go to the college, and they had opened up a scholarship, a Gordon Higginson Memorial Scholarship. And I thought, I'm just going to apply for that. I had no idea what they wanted or what they were doing, but I applied, and then you were interviewed and you had to go down for 2 days and demonstrate your mediumship and all this. Anyway, I won at one of the scholarships. So in 2014, I won a 3-year scholarship in Gordon's memory. So what that meant, I could go to the college for 3 years, twice a year for 3 years, and see different teachers. And so I'd seen Andy there. I've seen lots, Colin Bates, Tony Stockwell, all of the ones, Paul Jacobs, all down at the college. So I'm familiar with their workings and such like.
Wow. And I've never really discussed this with any other mediums. So this is quite interesting for my listeners to hear how we've or who we've learned from. And backing up the bus, when I was being taught by Andy, the one thing that I noticed about him and his delivery is he's very much a storyteller, right?
Yeah.
He gets,
Uh-huh.
I love how he gets right to the detailing. And so that's what I ask of the loved ones in spirits. Like, if you can give me the details, like, and sometimes I feel when I'm receiving messages from the spirit, when it comes to the detailing, it's like I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it, I'm feeling it. I don't know how I know, but I just know. One of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. And you're right. The detailing, I think some things that are lost in mediumship that I feel quite a lot of when you're watching mediumship now is that it's just grabbing at pieces of information. So it might be, oh, I've got your mum here, and she liked to wear a yellow dress, and who is Mary, and what has Carlisle Street got to do with something? Now, they're all valid pieces of evidence, and that's fine. But it's different from saying, I have your mum here, and she passed with whatever it might be. And I know that she had 3 children. And when she was here, she loved to take the bus up to Carlisle Road and go to the bingo and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
The story of the life,
Story.
And you're
Yes.
right, there are not a lot of mediums, including myself, and at times where you're just kind of getting the information and it's coming fast. Sometimes as mediums, I think we forget to go into the depths of the
Yeah.
evidence and remember that that person in spirit wants to share their life with you. They want the story of their life to come forward.
The essence of them coming
Yeah,
through. And that's one
exactly.
of the things that, you know how they say, and I believe I read this in your website, and it was very, very similar to mine. And that is, every job that I've had, and I'm a woman of many hats, but every job that I have had has led me to where I am today, like
Yeah.
preparing. So when I was young, I was very much interested in dance, performing, singing, all of that form of expression. And it helped me develop not to be afraid of my audience. Like, you could put me in front of 5,000 people, I'll be just fine.
Mhm.
Right.
So
And
that's
so,
helped.
and I feel that I always wanted to bring the character to life whenever I was on stage. And so that I feel like, okay, so I want to become the character. I want you, mom, come through me. I want to bring you to life, even though you are alive, but in a different way. So your loved one here knows, feels, trusts that I am you, or you are
Yeah,
here, exactly right
exactly.
here.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And you're right, it does lead you, your life as a medium. I think your life does. I mean, I used to sing with my sisters and things on stage, but not in any, not massive audiences and things, but it still was stage presence and all the rest of it, but I didn't like it. So the funny thing about the opposite to you is that I didn't like being on stage. I was someone that quite liked to just be in the background, and I was happy singing. I loved singing. I loved being with my sisters, but I was never really one to want to be at the forefront. But the funny thing is, when I got asked, when I first sat in a home circle years ago, the medium who was taking the circle had gone round asking, where do you see your mediumship going? What do you want to do for spirit? And I couldn't wait for them to come to me, because I wanted to say, oh, I want to do platform. And I had no inclination to step out on a stage in front of lots of people, but I knew that that's what my mediumship was for. And by the time she got to me and I was so excited to give her my answer, she said, oh, don't worry, Karen, we know what you're going to do. You're going to be on platform and it's fine. And I was laughing because I was like, oh, I really wanted to say that, because I don't know where it came from, but it's something I love. And that is exactly what has transpired. Is my events. I do readings and such like as well, and teaching, but I love my events. I love the events.
Yeah, it's like a high for some reason. I don't know
It
why.
is.
And again, it just reminds me, because I love being on stage, perhaps that's a lot for me, the opposite of you. So
Yeah.
how did you overcome, like not stage fright, but how did you overcome that?
The strange thing is, and you know, when mediums say the strange thing, we know there's nothing strange about it, but as the human side of me, I used to think like that, no, God, I don't really want to step out in front of everyone. But what happened within my mediumship was, I just knew it was right. And I just felt that when I step on the stage to do mediumship, it didn't, I had no worries. I knew that I was there, and I knew that I was supposed to be there, and it was fine. And I never doubt spirit coming through, nothing at all like that. So I didn't have the same fear as I would stepping out there as Karen, the singer, where it's like, now you would think it would be the opposite, because when you sing, you know that your voice is there, you've practiced, you know the words of the songs, you know what you're doing, and it's all very sure and it's going to happen. But with mediumship, you're just kind of standing up there and
We have
opening up, and
no idea what's
you
going to
don't
happen.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think it would be the other way around, but it wasn't for me. It was just something that felt very natural. And I love talking about spirit and educating about spirit, and just being in the whole, to be in a room full of people that are all there for the same purpose. And even if they can't all get a communication, they're all part of that. I
Yes.
just think is the most amazing
Yeah.
thing.
So with your teachings, do you have people come to you? Do you have a circle every month or something like that?
No, I used to do that, but with my own work kind of overtaking that a little bit, time didn't work out that way for me, or it hasn't now.
Being a
So what
mom
I do
too.
is I do more online mentoring. Now I still do in-person workshops from time to time, but they're not like every other month. So I do a lot of online teaching, which I feel, especially when, the pandemic happened, everyone had to go online. So people are more used to that.
I
the
used to,
the
yeah.
energy of it works the same for me and works the same for my students, because we are all in a room together, and then you get into your breakout rooms and such like. But I also do one-to-one mentoring, which is more intensive. It's not like putting someone with other students and such like. It's more about that person and developing that student and saying, right, what are their needs? How do they work with spirit? What is it? So it's not as generic as a workshop.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that a lot of your students, and I find this going in, is when we do this work, it's a matter of tapping into who are we as a medium and going through our healings as well. And I do say that to my students is be prepared. If you want to become a medium, you're going to become on like a roller coaster ride, because you
Absolutely.
have to do your shadow work, do your healing, know who you are as a person, not just as becoming a medium. Did you find the
Yeah,
same with you? Did you find that you had to, stuff was coming up for you personally? It's like out of the
completely.
old, making room for the new.
It was, I say to my students as well, Helen, that if you're going to do this is a double-edged sword at times,
Mm-hmm.
because your sensitivity, what you're trying to do to develop your mediumship is heighten your sensitivity. But by the time you heighten your sensitivity, it's going to make you sensitive to everything. So then it's going
Everything.
to make you more sensitive to your own life, your own needs, what you've gone on, what you've gone through.
Yes.
And the trauma of things might bubble up to the surface, because really what you are doing is you are kind of not clearing out, but you're kind of you need to understand who you are as a person to
Yep,
become a
absolutely,
medium. You have to.
100%.
It works hand in hand. So I agree with you on that. It does bring a lot forward, and you have to be prepared to face that. And I have watched students before get so far and then they don't want to go into their own stuff, so they step back, which is a shame, but you know, it happens at the right time for everyone. And it's an ongoing process, as you know. It's not, you know, you don't just become a medium and then you're at that level and that's it's an ongoing development all your life.
Yeah. And what do you do to recharge, to step away from this? What, because we need, as mediums, we need to, I have to do it. You know, everyone would say, well, you know, I'll take time to travel. Just, it's like being a famous writer, and all of a sudden you have writer's block, and then you have to step away from the project so that you become inspired when you come back, or the creativity will come to you while you're not in the work. Do you find that you have to do the same thing as taking long periods of break?
Yeah, I take breaks. I think that sometimes it's really funny, and you might agree with this, but I think that you take that break. So you might just say, well, I'm going to have a holiday or a vacation and for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, whatever it might be. And then by the end of that time, you're thinking, oh, I've not spoke with spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I've not done what I need to do. And like, and then you feel a little bit like, oh, wait, let me get back to this. So it's
Yeah,
almost like, because that's who you are, it's because you are spirit and connected to spirit. When it's not there, you really miss that. You
you
really do
do.
feel
You
it.
do.
But I do think that you need, as a medium, you do need the break from readings and taking on other people's energies a lot, because
Yes.
as a medium, that's what you do. So sometimes you do need to go, I'm not going to answer the phone today, or I'm going to block out 2 weeks in my diary where I'm not doing readings. I need that break from
Yes.
that because it's
Yes.
quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get that too, where people are asking me, like, how many do you do a day? And I'm like, to be honest with you, um, I'm usually about 3 a day. 4
Yeah,
people is, I'm pushing it for 4.
yeah,
And
I agree.
and I do Sundays and Mondays. Nope, sorry, that's my time, me time. I got to do my
Yeah.
grounding. I got to get out in nature. Or same thing. What you just said is, you know, closing the laptop, not being on the computers, trying to stay away from my phone as much as possible. But we do.
Yeah.
We have to recharge. And are
I
you
think
one of
it's
those where
important.
people ask you, so can you read me? So who's around me right
All
now?
the time. Yeah, all the
All the
time. And
time.
you know what? That's just part of it, isn't it? And you do understand that. But I
Yeah.
think, like you said about the amount of readings, I hear mediums saying, oh, I do 6 a day, or I do
Oh,
8, or I do, and I think
don't
absolutely
tell.
not. I know I have to give the same quality of reading to every single person that
Yep,
comes. So if I
exactly.
have the energy to do that, I have to limit that. So I'm like you, I will do 3, maybe 4, maybe, but usually 2 to 3
Yeah,
is enough, and I'll
two.
have my days off in between, you know, where I might still be working, but it might be admin work, or it might be working on an event
Exactly.
or teaching. So readings for me are the one that I need to take the break from. That's for me, that's the biggest one for my energy.
Mhm.
But you're right, when you meet people, they do want to know. Like, I've met people in the shop, you know, and they're looking, I'm like, oh hi, how are you? And I know they're looking at me going, oh, is she getting something for me? And
Mhm.
I'm thinking, I don't know what I came in here for. I can't remember what I came in here for.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's not, you can't be switched on all the time. And I
No.
think that's a big misconception about it. It's like you're constantly on. You can't be
Yeah. No, I
constantly
just
on as
say,
a
no,
medium.
when I'm done, the store's closed. Store's
That's
closed.
how I feel. That's
Yeah,
how I feel. And
exactly.
sometimes someone at the end of a reading, they do want more and more, or, you know, and you've got to be able to say as well, look, that's, it's not that that spirit person stepped back. It's not that your mum's not here anymore. It's just that that's the reading at a close. Because as a medium, you have to protect your energy levels. That's
Mhm.
the biggest thing.
Yeah, I find that too. I find that too. Um, so is there how should I say this? Is there a special session or a special um event that jumps out in your mind that you remember the most? Like a client that just, if you were to tell a story, one of your favorites, if you have one, because we've done so many, but is there one that really kind of moved you, or one that you just really cannot let go of?
like you say, there are many, because obviously we go through different events, different readings, different circumstances, and there's been many times, I know throughout my mediumship, the one type of reading that I struggled with in some degree is when it's children that have crossed over.
Yes.
That was really difficult, which I'm sure it is for all mediums. So I remember being at an event and I had worked and it was fine, and I'd maybe done 2 or 3 contacts and it was all fine. And then it was finishing this contact and had said to the lady, "Oh, just before we finish, are you wearing a necklace with a feather on it?" And she said, "No, no, I'm not." And I said, "Oh, that's strange. I just seen that coming in just as I was stepping away from you." And the lady behind this woman put her hand up and she said, "I am." And I said, "Right, so I'm coming to you." So as I went to her, I knew it was her son in the spirit side. I knew that he was 10 years old when he passed. I knew that he had been knocked down by a car, and I'd got lots and lots of information. And she said, "Yes, yes, yes, yeah." And I'm thinking, I'm not feeling like this is touching her soul. Like, this is her child. And he was clear. And I just kind of felt like this, I don't know if she's in shock or she didn't expect this. It was just a really strange feeling, but I kept going, and everything I said, she was like, "Definitely," and this and that and the next thing. So anyway, I went on as long as I could, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to have to leave it there now, but thank you so much. Thank you for working with me." And as she said, "Thank you," and the audience clapped, as I turned to take a sip of water, I said to him in the spirit side, "Please tell me your name." Now, that's not something I would ever do. If a name comes out through the mediumship, it's given, but it's not something I go looking for, because as a medium, you know, your
I'm the
mind
same
can
way.
jump in
Yep.
and give you different things. So I turned to take the glass of water, and I said, "Please, your mum needs that." And I just knew it's what she needed to hear. And he said, "Kai." And as I put my water down, turned round, everyone had just stopped clapping at that point. I went, "I have to come back to you. His name was Kai." And she said, "Yes, it was." And she wept. And it's almost like this huge release for this lady. And I could feel him and his emotion. I could feel her emotion.
Yeah.
And so I spoke to her and I moved on from it. But when I left, I felt, I knew she needed that. Now, it's not that I'm saying to anyone listening, you need to be hung up on one thing, because most mediums will say to you, if you're hung up on one thing, you might not get it, and then you'll
It's
feel
true. It's so,
disappointed,
so true.
right? But in that moment, spirit was so strong, and he was so clear, really very audiently clear, and he knew what his mum needed, and he gave me it, and it was done. And for me, I knew that healing had taken place and everything that was needed. So that stands out to me, because the funny thing was, on the way home in the car, I always speak away, to spirit and say, "Thank you so much, and I hope you're happy with what happened and all of
Yeah.
this."
Yeah.
And this little boy was chatting away the whole journey home. He was chatting away, and he was still there. And I just felt like that has brought so much healing in that one moment. So that story really stays with me.
I had something like that similar yesterday, one-on-one, just like this. And it was my client, and I was connecting with her partner. And, a lot of specifics or whatever. And I knew she was right into it. She knew that we were having that connection. And I always find that they like to leave something on a high note. She had a little bit of family reunion, but it was the partner that was kind of saving himself for the end. And then all of a sudden, just before I'm about to close, just like yourself, say the name Trixie. And I said, for some reason, I want to say the name Trixie to you. Well, that was it. The tears, the hands over her mouth, she couldn't speak. And I'm just like, okay, like, take a breath,
Amazing.
take a breath. And she says, "You have no idea, by you saying that name, what that means to me." And her name was Tracy, his name was Ricky. And they named their cat, they combined their names,
Oh, how amazing.
Tracy and Ricky, together, just by saying Trixie. And she says, "That's
Amazing.
all I need to hear. You just made my session just by saying that." And it's
Isn't
not,
it
but
amazing?
she didn't put that intention out there. She didn't say, "Okay, Ricky, you better say this." It really, to be honest with you, caught her off guard. But I said, what a way
Sometimes
to
that's,
end the session.
yeah, sometimes that's meant as well, isn't it? Where they're not expecting something, the client isn't looking for one specific, but the
Mm.
spirit bring that anyway. And I think this is the thing, though, mediumship can come and, it mediumship changes all the time. So if you go to see a medium, then you should go with an open mind. Even if you're a little bit skeptical,
Always.
that's fine. A medium should never mind someone being skeptical as long as they're open-minded to what's going to happen. But I think if you go with it an expectancy, sometimes you can walk away disappointed, because the medium can only work with what happens in that 30 minutes or
For
40
saying
minutes.
that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I say it all the time, especially in a group session. I always say, anyone here, please, if you have any expectations, please leave them at the door and trust that the session is going to unfold the way that it should. And
Yeah.
to remind them that I am strictly and only just the messenger. That's it. Right.
Yes,
So they kind of,
exactly.
then you can see who did come in with expectations, because they kind of like, they roll their eyes and go, okay, yeah, all right, I'll do that then.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the best way, and it really is, because I think that also with every medium you go to see, if you're someone that goes to see different mediums, we all work differently. So
Yes.
there's never going to be the same experience, you know, and there's also some mediums you'll gravitate towards and others that you might think that's not for me, and that's okay too. It doesn't invalidate the medium. It's just showing that it's like people, you know, some people you'll gravitate towards, some you won't, in every walk of life. And so it doesn't mean that that person's not a good medium because they're not your type of medium. It just means that they're
Yeah.
not for you, you know.
I always say too that your loved ones in spirit know who they want you to go to, and they're very intelligent beings. They'll nudge,
Yeah.
because they'll know. Like, I have another medium friend of mine. She's been a nurse for like 30 years, and then she became a real estate agent, and then she came into her mediumship. So her knowledge is way different than mine. So I always say,
Yeah.
if you want to know more about health and things like that, I'm going to send you over to Bev, or she's the one, because her library is so different from mine. And so
Yeah.
spirit knows who would be a good match, because I always say they're in charge of the three-way call,
They
right?
are. They absolutely are, and I totally agree with that. And as well as that, like you called it, the library of information, or
Yep.
the frame of reference, as I call it, it's different for every medium, dependent on our lives as well. Now, that doesn't mean that a medium can't get all the information that you're looking for, regardless of their own background. But the way that spirit communicate, they will communicate the fastest way they can. So if there's a medium there that knows the information that that person's looking for, and it's going to come easy, that's what they'll do. It's like, if you think of, I don't know if you've heard of a medium called Albert Best. He was an Irish medium,
Yes. Yes.
Albert Best, and he worked for the postal service
Yep.
before his mediumship. So when
His
he got on
library
stage,
with
and
addresses.
yeah, he just
Yeah.
used to give addresses, postcodes, all this, no problem. And I have a friend who's a nurse as well, who's a medium, and we started out together. I've not seen her for a long time, but she won't mind me saying this if she hears this. But because she was a nurse, she used to give medical conditions in
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
name, you know, whereas you and I might say, you know, well, I know that there's a chest condition and blah, 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 blah. She would be like, it's, and she
Yeah.
would say all this, like the
Specific.
Latin name
Very
almost for it.
specific. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
Bev.
that was
That's Bev.
her knowledge. Yeah. It's
So I
amazing.
do have to start bringing it to close, only because I have a client in
Sure.
10 minutes.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes, that's cool.
so a question for you before we sign off is, can you give, for my listeners, the definition of the power of spirit? What does that mean to you?
So it, to me, it's going to sound cliche, but it means everything, because we all have the power of spirit. So we are spirit in human form. And that power of spirit moves us through our life, regardless of whether we know about it or we don't know about it. The power of our spirit, our higher self, moves us through our life. And the power of that spirit within can move mountains, as far as I'm concerned. So we can't change certain physical aspects of things, or we can't change things out with our control as such. But what you can do, if you believe in the power of your spirit, is allow that to take you forward, because it will never be wrong. It will never, ever be wrong. So for me, that
Oh,
is the power of spirit, and it's healing. It's a healing energy more than anything else.
thank you, thank you, thank you. That was so beautiful. So, so beautiful. And you just made my day. I am so excited. I can't wait to add this on to my podcast channel. So just for my listeners, my viewers, I will put at the bottom, or I will say it actually for my listeners if they want to reach out to you, it's KarenDocherty.com. Yes.
That's right.
I'll
Yes.
put that in the description so they can contact
Perfect.
you. Yeah, for a Scottish reading. Yeah.
Perfect. I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me as well, Helen. You and I know that these meetings come about in, strange ways, we'll call it, but always
Yes,
meant.
I love
Yeah,
it. And I hope, well, I would love to work with you in person and do an event together
me
over in
too.
Scotland. That would be a dream come true for me to do that there.
Me
So,
too.
okay, so just to
Excellent.
ask you just to stay on. I'll end the recording, but if you can just stay on, I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you for my listeners. I hope you enjoyed Karen as much as I did, and I hope you enjoyed her accent, and I hope you were able to understand. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.